Hey, good morning. It's Tom, and coming at you today on this Tuesday from the lobby of the Anaheim Marriott out here in California this week at the National Child Welfare Law Conference, working with a lot of other child welfare lawyers, those who represent parents, children, judges, and of course other folks like me who are working in the system who happen to be attorneys. So, couple of things we're learning out here today that I want to focus on. This is nothing new, but it's interesting, I think, when you go out to a seminar like this, a conference like this, and you see the things that they're focused on, and it reminds you these are the things we need to be focused on as well. One of the good seminars I went to yesterday was a seminar on the issue of child attachment. Now, we, of course, in our work, do a lot of make a lot of efforts to look for relatives. We do a lot to try to maintain stable placements when a child is in foster care. We, of course, try to keep parent and child together whenever we can. But I think the way we do it, we really need to look at it less from the federal mandate, for example, of keeping siblings together or of looking for relatives, and more from the angle of to whom is the child attached. So attachment theory is the idea, and I think it's fairly well proven, that when children are born, they attach to a caregiver. They attach to their mother or father normally, that's the primary caregiver. And as long as those attachments are secure, as long as that parent is giving the child what he or she needs, that's going to be a good, secure attachment. When children are moved from the home, when their parent is not a consistent caregiver, when the child is being neglected or abused, then the child's sense of safety and well-being in the world is disrupted. And I think we need to think that when we're thinking about the decision to remove, we need to understand that we may be disrupting an attachment. The question, of course, is whether that's necessary for the child's safety. When we look at where a child is placed, and we think about moving a child from one foster placement to another or placing with a relative, we also need to think about the issue of how that move is going to affect the child's attachment to the caregiver. Because what happens so often is that if a child is moved around a lot, if he's shuffled between numerous caregivers, numerous foster homes, then what happens is that ability to securely attach to a primary caregiver is disrupted, and the child begins to act out in ways that deflect really the normal attachment. So we'll have to see a lot of behavioral issues. We've all seen this in our work. But when you get a chance, we'll try to post some resources for you on the issue of attachment theory. I want you to try to kind of focus on that as we look at, not from the question of, should we place with a relative? Should we leave this child in this foster home? Who should adopt this child? Is that sort of thing? Focus on the child's attachments. To whom is the child attached, and will this caregiver relationship promote that child's well-being and promote that child's sense of safety? The other thing we talked about yesterday, which I thought was really interesting, we talked about the ABA, the American Bar Association guidelines on safety. And honestly, I felt like we rolled out the pre-team consultations about a year and a half ago, I guess now. And when we did that, we talked a lot in the preparation for the pre-team about the issue of when is a child safe or not safe. The issue, of course, of what is the threat to the child, what are the child's vulnerabilities, what are the caretaker's capacities, and looking at those three factors in terms of how do we make this child safe, and is it necessary to remove the child from the home, place with a relative, place in foster care because of the child's vulnerabilities to a specific threat and the parents' inability to calm that situation or to reduce that threat. And so it reminded me that we need to really focus on in our work on the fundamentals again, not on whether or not the parent has completed the case plan to be able to get the child back in home. The case plan is something we can continue to work on under a protective order or something like that. But we really need to focus on, in our removal decisions and in our decision to return the child to the home, on those basic issues of, have we made the home a safe place for the child? Have we decreased the threat? Have we improved the caregiver's capacity to care for the child in a safe manner? Or have we reduced the child's vulnerability? So I want to encourage you to sort of think about that issue. We're really having a good time out here, of course. We're learning a lot. Got a bunch of folks from Georgia, some of our SAGs, a lot of our child attorneys. Got a very good Georgia delegation. And I appreciate the chance to talk to you this morning and look forward to getting back home, and see you next week. Thanks.